This is Sonic Tonic Experience. Thanks for being here. My name's Darren Kramer. Very excited to have my good friend Jake Boldman, lead trumpet player, now living in Dallas, Texas. And we're going to have a lot of fun learning all about the world of lead trumpet. So welcome, Jake. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat and hang out.
Yeah, this is especially cool because I haven't seen you for a few months. You were living in Colorado, and then right before all this craziness hit, you were on tour with Margaritaville and touring around the country, and then went back to Dallas to hunker down and live this thing out. So it's nice to see your face again.
Yeah, man, you too. Human contact.
Yeah, even through, technology.
Yeah, right.
Our listeners should know we opened the show listening to Turbulent Altercation. It's the first song on my first CD, and that track originally featured Jerry Hay and Gary Grant, the brilliant trumpet players, on everything out in LA. And so we decided to redo the ElektroHornz parts on this new remix track of Turbulent Altercation, and Jake is there playing lead trumpet. So thanks for all your efforts and always contributing to my DKO projects.
Yeah, man, of course. It's great writing. It's so much fun to play. It's good stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of in common and love of music for jazz, and for the fact that we both went to two of the best schools, really continuing to be in the world for music. And I went to University of Miami, you went to North Texas, and there's a lot of history there and a lot of great learning and faculty, and it's just when you know someone's from one of those two schools, you know they have a lot of skills. So it's neat that we cross paths here in Colorado.
Yeah, for sure, of all places.
Yeah. So we got all kinds of stuff we're going to talk about today, and this is going to be a real fun hour, but we got to get started with one of the more important things. Let's get to this tonic.
Quench, baby, got to get liquid inside me. Quench.
Jake, what are we drinking today?
So today we're drinking your standard old-fashioned.
A standard old-fashioned.
Yep.
What, for our viewers that have never had one of those, what is in it and why do you love it?
I think I love it because I'm a big fan of bourbon, and that's the main spirit that you put in it. So I do 2 shots of the bourbon, a little bit of bitters, a little bit of simple syrup, and one of those, I can never remember the name of those super sweet black cherries, like Luxador. Throw one of those in there with an orange peel.
Oh, nice! You got the orange peel too. Let's see that again.
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
There's the cherry in there.
Okay, well, here's to you. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, man. I think I like it because it's got that bite and like the smokiness of the whiskey, but the cherry syrup and the simple syrup kind of brings out the sweeter side of the bourbon. You got a fancy ice cube in there, yeah.
Look at that, I got round ice cube.
I need to get me one of those.
What bourbon are you using?
This is Woodford Reserve. That's just what we have laying around right now. So,
do you always seem to have several bourbons laying around? Kind of like your trumpet and your mouthpiece.
Yeah, I tend to. Got rye, some bourbons.
Nice. I actually am doing the Breckenridge.
That stuff's good.
That's
really one of my favorites, actually.
Really is, and it's made here in Breckenridge, Colorado. And ironically, I was just up there a couple of weeks ago, just checking things out. And me and my girlfriend Julie went up there, and the weather was just pristine, and the whole main drag was shut down, and everybody was sitting outside, because of the whole quarantine thing. And It was a nice vibe. No cars and just tables and chairs in Main Street, right along the main drag there in Breckenridge. And so it was
That sounds awesome.
a really nice 24 hours. But
Yeah.
I didn't actually buy this there. It's in all
Okay.
the stores around Colorado, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to sample mine again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Bourbon whiskey in an old fashioned is really good.
Yeah.
So, for those of you just tuning in, this is Jake Boldman, great lead trumpet player, just recently put on hiatus because of COVID. Tell us about what you were doing with this Broadway show touring around the United States.
Yeah, so we're it's the first national tour of Escape to Margaritaville. It's a show basically written around a bunch of Jimmy Buffett tunes. And so we started in Providence, Rhode Island, and tech there for a couple of weeks, and did some I want to say like a week or two of previews, and then opened the show and went from there. And for the most part, we stick in cities for about a week. Every now and then we'll hit a couple cities in a row where we're only there for 1 or 2 nights, and those are always long days, especially for people on the crew.
Yeah.
They got really, really long days, and they're putting all this stuff together, and just it's super professional, and they don't get to make mistakes with setting that stuff up. So it's pretty impressive on those long days what they can get done. So yeah, we were, let's see, the last place we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we actually never played a show there. We were driving from we were driving from Pueblo, I think.
Yeah, this is perfect for those of you that don't know life on the road. It seems all glamorous and how awesome. There are many awesome things about it, but there is the other side. I don't know where the heck I was. You didn't actually get to see the town. You actually just go, oh, we're in a new city, and now we're playing the show at 7:30 tonight. Okay.
Don't know what day it is. Don't know where I'm at, but I know I got to be at this theater down the road at 7:30. So.
Yes.
So yeah, we were coming from there, and we were on the bus driving, and we were about halfway to Albuquerque, and our manager got on the microphone in the bus and was like, "Just a heads up, we're not playing in Albuquerque this weekend, so enjoy the week and don't get into too much trouble, and we'll." Then it was like it kind of hit the fan after that. And it's like, instead of going to wherever on Monday, you're going home.
And they flew you out of Albuquerque?
Yep.
You were enjoying the tour, and you enjoyed the playing every night and the challenge of trying to perfect the show and really nail everything?
Yeah, so it's not the hardest show that I've ever played. It's one of the easier ones, but there are still moments of difficulty, I guess, with you're just picking notes out, sometimes hitting the same note over and over and over again, and yeah, so I think at a certain point you have to get into the consistency part of playing, because you're at that point you could I had most of the show memorized, and you're kind of just flipping through the pages. I was starting to dig in to see how perfect I could play the show. And how clean I could get it. I wasn't really focused on not making mistakes. It was more of like getting that good feeling on every note than, lines and things like that. So it was interesting, because you get pretty sick and tired of playing the same thing over and over again quickly. And so, yeah, I think you almost kind of have to find new ways to shed while you're performing. At least that's what I was trying to do, and just keep it fresh. And I'm really going to focus on, like, my articulation feels great today, so I'm going to focus on really getting that clean and getting that feeling going. And
if you have a week in one city versus 3 or 4 one-nighters, do you notice a difference in your chops or the way you feel physically?
Not really, just because I think I will say that, climate plays a factor into that. I know that you understand that being a brass player too, and I'm sure that, reeds, and it affects musicians a lot of ways. But for us, our chops are affected, and if you're not drinking enough water, that can affect it. And so I think that's the thing that I noticed the most as far as like chop wise and like playing through the show. It was like, it's usually fine. I felt about the same at the end of show and then like beginning of show as well, just because I think you're playing so much consistently that your chops are kind of constantly warmed up, and I was still doing routine and stuff. But for the most part, I think I was just in that mode playing all the time.
Yeah, and that really is just like working out, right? It's you get a certain level of fitness and you're cool. It's just I really noticed it when I was touring with Tom Jones. That's already 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But we'd tour all over different places, and then we'd be in Vegas 4 times a year for 2 weeks at a time at the MGM Grand.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks straight, just in the same place, playing like an hour and 15 minutes every night. And so you'd unpack your bags and you get to be in the room and you just feel kind of like you're settled. I definitely always enjoyed that, because then you just know you have the whole day to warm up, practice, work out. I was working on my second CD then, so we were recording backstage or in the room and have a whole setup, and it was really productive. But you can't do that stuff as easy. And when it's like boom, 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 when I was with Matchbox 20, it's like you're in the next city and you got to really maintain yourself as a brass player. So for our listeners out there that don't realize or understand kind of what we're talking about, Jake, what you call yourself a lead trumpet player. First of all, what does it take to play trumpet? And then what is the difference between a trumpet player and a lead trumpet player?
It's funny. I was just writing about this. So for me, the lead players tend to spend more time in the upper register of the horn. Not to say that like other trumpet players don't. It seems to be that consistently lead players are playing, they're the top voice. And so that usually ends up being on the upper end of the horn, register wise. So you're kind of sitting on top of, I would say that lead players do, it's not just specific to big band. I think funk groups and things like that, it's kind of a lot of the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just playing in the upper register consistently. But so yeah, in big band setting, it's the first trumpet part. Those are going to be the highest notes. And then you end up sitting on top of the band because of the nature of the instrument and how well that it projects.
Why are there so few lead trumpet players versus general good trumpet players? What's the difference?
I think it's spending time working on that upper register playing. Some people are, I don't want to say naturally good at it, but their specific setup works better for playing in the upper register for longer periods of time. That's not saying that you can't work on your range and get better at it that way.
It's like a sprinter versus a long distance runner, right? Or I'm way into cycling and the Tour de France and all that. There's people that are climbers and there's people that are sprinters. Your just physical makeup does have something to do with it. Did you always find that you were able to play higher notes easier at a young age?
It's funny because my first band director, she made fun of me.
As band directors should do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But she would say, yeah, especially getting into high school, because I was playing lead in the big band at high school, at that point. But she was like, I remember you in 7th grade and you couldn't play above a G on top of the staff, which is, about middle of the road. And she was like, and you're shaking and everything. And I'm not sure, I thought about this a lot. I'm not sure when it clicked for me, or if it was, I remember I was playing a really shallow mouthpiece, and that was helping me get higher notes out. And so I think without knowing it, I was working on air compression. And
but then all of a sudden you hit trumpet puberty.
Yeah. If you will.
Wait, I better drink to that. Okay.
Yeah. The trumpet puberty.
I've never said that before. That's what Sonic Tonic Experience is all about.
Yeah, man. I don't think anybody said that before.
Yeah, so, and then you just realized at some point in high school that you enjoyed playing the higher notes and kind of leading the way on top of the band.
Yeah, I remember wanting to play the first part. And I enjoyed playing the melody, and which ended up, on my stand a lot, the melody playing first or whatever. And when I wasn't, it was like almost like I wasn't having as much fun, and so it's changed. I've changed my tune since then, because I love playing inner parts, like third trumpet. I love third trumpet. I would play third trumpet all the time. But yeah, I remember from, a young age really enjoying being like that voice and being in that part. And it made it fun for me,
And that's one of the main components anyone should be doing. When you love something, do more of that.
Yeah.
And you're better at it. You spread more positivity. You're in a better mood. You're happier. You're not doing it for money. You're doing it because you're just a creature on this planet, and you're doing something you love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think, there's sort of a stigma out there in the music world of, there's certain personality types that play certain instruments. Do you find that, and a common thing is that lead trumpet, you really have to be a leader. You're usually a personality type, and you're kind of an alpha male. Have you found that, and do you think of that yourself that way?
Yeah, I don't think of myself that way.
No.
I think you do have to, just because of the nature of the role, you're kind of driving the bus stylistically, with big band and stuff, and that loosens up when you get into different genres and different ensemble makeups, instrument wise. But yeah, especially with big band, you kind of have to take the reins. But that also means doing the research, and taking the time to, listening. Everybody always says that, but seriously, listening is like the biggest thing that helped me. And I would sit with my charts and find my favorite recordings and literally go measure by measure, phrase by phrase. I'm only listening for articulation. Okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm only listening for dynamics. Okay, I'm only listening for the shape of the line. Where is he articulating, or anybody articulating and slurring to get through these passages. But yeah, I think there's, back to your original question, I think there is a personality type, kind of like, I don't know, jockey lead trumpet player.
Yeah. You gravitate toward it, and then you actually have to put in the effort and to work on it.
Yeah.
I've always kind of thought, I've written a lot of music and played in a lot of big bands, and I've really boiled it down to, in any band, the most important instrument is the bass, because it's rhythmic and it's harmonic. So
Sure.
it's doing two of the three main roles of music. The other one is melody. But really with a big band, meaning we're talking 17 to 20 people on stage playing swing, Latin, ballads, a whole number of styles. But when you hear a great big band, it's really what makes or breaks it to me as a listener is drums and lead trumpet.
Yeah.
And if those two things, and the bass, of course, so if those three chairs are being well taken care of, the third trombone, the second tenor, sorry everybody, but they don't matter as much. They can be carried like a mediocre basketball team by the star, you know. So I want to play some music here so our listeners can hear you playing. And this is from your last year at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas?
Yes. Yeah, it would have been my last year.
We were just listening to University of North Texas with Jake Boldman playing lead trumpet with the 1 O'Clock Lab Band, featuring the great jazz trumpet player Chuck Findley. And that arrangement was by Drew Zaremba, who now lives in Colorado, great sax player up at University of Northern Colorado. And that was the Song Is You. But such a pleasure to hear great playing like that. You can literally go to any video or any record from University of North Texas Lab 1 and be pleasantly surprised and entertained with musical quality. And it's such a neat lineage to be from. So how was it to be at that school?
I really enjoyed my time there. Like we would get together and like hang and listen to records or whatever, new tunes that had come out from up and coming jazz musicians we really liked. We get together and sight read. I mean, there was I remember when I was first starting there, we had a trumpet hang with some of the guys from the 1 O'Clock, and it's like, oh, cool, like they want to hang.
Yeah.
And so we're playing, we had kind of this round robin thing going where it's like we had 5 trumpets up at one time and just reading big band charts down. And so you start on one end and you're playing fourth, and then you go to third, and then you're playing lead, and then you're playing second, and then fifth, and then you have a break until it's your turn to start playing fourth again.
I love that. That's what college is all about, man. That is so
great.
Cool. Where you're so deep into this thing where it's like, who cares what time it is, and you just play more. I remember one time we went and heard the Moscow Philharmonic that was over from Russia and played in Miami, and then one of the grad student trombone players invited the bone players all back to the campus. Yeah. And then we did that exact same thing, playing Bach quartets and all these things of just mixed with these guys. Some of them could barely speak English, so we couldn't even communicate that much. And we're just all swapping in and playing till the wee hours. And I remember us smoking Bulgarian cigarettes that they had, and we invited our trombone teacher over too. He was
Yeah.
involved in it, and it was just such a cool thing. And I think a lot of people maybe don't realize they would just happen on the video they just saw you play and go, wow, that sounds really good. And, oh, you must be really lucky. You're just musically talented. That's not the case. Everybody needs to realize when you hear something great or see something great, there might be raw talent, but there's a lot of hard work. And I love that you're bringing up this point about listening. Music is about listening. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you respond once you hear something and decide you have something to say, and especially as a composer, what do I hear? What do I want to do? And the detail and the exposed nature of lead trumpet is really kind of unprecedented, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what is it about a big band that is one of your favorite things to do?
Part of it is like the harmonic density of it. There's so many things going on. There's so much to listen to and to be a part of, even when you're not playing. Like just being aware of what's going on around you at all times. And that's one of my favorite things about it is you could sit there and listen to the bass player the entire tune and it would be great.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and listen. It's like, oh wow, that sax section sounds incredible. It's like they're so in tune and so tight. Nobody's out of place. Everybody's moving together as a unit. And so I think because of the number of musicians that are a part of it, there's always something to listen to and to tune in, when you're not playing. And then when you are playing, you're a part of this one unified sound. And when it's going, I mean, there is no better feeling than being a part of that and adding to it and contributing and doing it at a high level. I mean, that's when I'm having the most fun that I have.
I love many things that you're saying here, man. It's like so dialed in. I love it when people maybe discover something, especially from this podcast, of going, oh, I didn't really think about that. You just kind of hear this blanket of sound,
Sure.
and don't realize that there's 17 different people playing their individual parts to add up to the whole, which is like a drink. That's why I got the idea for this thing. It's like you put more bitters in and the whole drink changes, even though you still have this strong bourbon in there, right?
Yes.
So the trumpet isn't the only thing. And believe it or not, great musicians aren't only listening for their own instrument. So when you hear Gordon Goodwin Big Band, or you hear a great Stan Kenton thing, or Maynard Ferguson, or do you notice the lead trumpet? Of course. But you might listen past that. You have the choice to listen and just dial in and go, wow, the piano voicings that he's doing behind that sax solo is just awesome.
Yeah.
How do you become more aware to think like that and listen like that?
I think it's really sitting down and critically listening, and analyzing. Not that you have to sit down with a pad and paper and write out everything that you're hearing, like I was saying earlier. But I think sitting down and having that be the only thing that you're doing is more helpful to that end than anything else you could do. Like you can always have the tunes on or whatever, and I have it on when I'm working or something, but every now and then something pops out and it's like, that was hip, that was great playing, and you go back and it's like, Jesus, I gotta take that off, and figure out what they're doing.
That's a great point. I think it helped people can be a lot happier and their brain a lot calmer if you do one thing at a time. Music isn't only background, right?
Yeah, totally.
It's known for being in elevators and grocery stores and the background of a movie. Okay, the soundtrack, that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But as musicians, we listen to it in the forefront and go, wow, that really had an impact on me. I love the way that makes me feel. What is that voicing? What is happening there? And going back multiple listenings instead of moving on to the next thing and blowing it off. I wanna play you a little mini version of that here. This is Jake playing with the DKO ElektroHornz, 4 live horn players with my Ableton rig. We're looking at Ableton Live. It's a cool recording program I use a lot to create and perform my music. But you can see it there. That's Jake. It's my sister Dawn Kramer on trumpet also. Tenor sax, Eric Earhart. It's really tight. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it again. And as it's playing, I'll go ahead and bring in the background track, which is, the drums, bass, and keyboards. Now, no horns. So I'm just crossfading between those, but that's like a small example of you can do that with your own mind and go, I'm really honing into the horns. And all of us, Jake, who were some of your inspirations when you were growing up? Why did you start going, I want to spend my life playing trumpet?
There's a band from Australia called the Cat Empire, and their first album, I remember I was sitting in my friend's brother's car, and I think we were driving to lunch or something, and he put on this record and this tune came on, and I was like, what is that? And this guy is just like super brassy, like high note shakes all over the place, like and was just like, I have to figure out how to do that.
I love that.
So then from there, the guy, his name is Harry J. Angus in the Cat Empire.
A real beefy player.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what got me going. And I remember hearing Wayne in Gordon Goodwin's band. I had a weird little like mix CD, and I don't even know where I got it, how I came upon these tunes, but it was Gordon Goodwin's band and Wayne playing lead. And I think we played Hunting Wabbits, and that was one of the tunes we played in high school. And we did the First Circle, which that's Bob Kernow's LA big band, which is one of my most favorite, where he does Pat Metheny and Lyle Mays tunes. That's one of my favorite albums of all time, hands down. And I didn't realize he was playing on that session.
Yes.
So I guess, Wayne was an early influence.
I mean, and that stuff's important because it really obviously then puts you on a new trajectory.
Sure.
I was lucky I had Bob Kernow direct the McDonald's All-American Jazz Band when I was a senior. And I'm going, who is this guy? He's just like a wealth of information. And he was real particular in rehearsals. And we played on the telethon and Jerry Lewis in Vegas, and went to Hawaii and did all these cool things. But then, you're hanging with him on the tour, and then he was just so laid back and cool and knew all this stuff about Stan Kenton big band from the day. And that's a life in music is just awesome. And I'm actually talking with Wayne Bergeron this week about being a guest on Sonic Tonic Experience.
Killer.
And hopefully he'll record on a tune of mine, and then kind of pick his brain. And it's just so neat to share all this information because everyone has different influences, but we're all kind of going for the same thing, which is to inspire and educate people around the world, right? We certainly need more of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone, we're listening and speaking with Jake Boldman, great lead trumpet player, lives in Dallas, Texas, and he's part of the DKO ElektroHornz. If you're enjoying what you're hearing and learning from him, please feel free to donate a few bucks, send it all his way, especially to help through this whole COVID experience this year. He was on the road in March when all of this hit, and we've all been struggling as performing musicians. So please feel free to push him a few bucks and help pay the rent. Jake, I want you were mentioning that you have a new project in the works of really trying to share your information, everything you've learned so far from a life in music, of how to learn and be a better lead trumpet player. So tell us about that.
During the quarantine, I've been fortunate in a way to be able to step back from how I was approaching my career. And I've been able to kind of brainstorm and get some new ideas as how to move forward from when we can open back up again and when we're all back to normal, if there is, to whatever the new normal is going to be.
And that's a really good point, right? Because I don't know that the past normal was what it should be, or maybe that's not true either. It's what it is. Let's make it better.
Yeah. And on that note too, it's funny what you end up craving. And it's really human experience and human contact. And that's what everybody's missing. It's not, the rent and, money's certainly a thing for artists. But at the end of the day, it's like, all I want to do is go have a drink with my friends at a bar and watch sports, or go hang. And that's kind of what everybody's missing, I think, and just puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
To answer your question, so I've taken a step back and kind of, I've been reading a music business book called The Savvy Musician by David Cutler. And going through it, it's kind of made me, and I'm not even that far through it yet, but going through it's made me kind of realize that there are so many aspects of having a music career that you can brand and you can market and come up with different ideas and in a way to kind of push yourself forward, and with more artistic fulfillment. And I think one of those things for me is teaching. And so, which has led me to kind of, I've been doing a lot of research on lead trumpet first and foremost here lately. It was funny, the other day I had a memory on Facebook pop up from 11 years ago in 2009. And I'd posted something about listening to the Atomic Basie record. And it's like, all right, yeah, good job getting those listening gains in like early on. But it's funny because now I'm transcribing that whole record.
Really?
And what Snooki was doing on it. And so it's funny how you kind of go back to those things and, been listening to that record for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And it never loses that, that fine-tuned playing approach especially from Snooki. And so, that's why I was kind of going back to the roots on it. But so it's led me to start a blog about lead trumpet playing. And I feel like there's a lot of the community, I guess, it thinks that it's all about the high notes. And there's so many other aspects of lead playing that is that I would say that I would argue is more important than having high notes. And it is important to do that. And it is important to work on your upper register. But I think what makes a great lead player is their musicality, and how that relates to the upper register versus the other way around. And a lot of people, you know, they have a double G and it's like, they're going to let you know about it, you know, and they got the ego to go with it. And
You mean like Snoop Dogg?
Yeah.
D-O double G?
exactly like Snoop Dogg. Man, I need to get a lesson.
Having a specific purpose, but really being well-rounded as well is a real challenge, but that's really the goal of any great lead trumpet player I've run across. You mentioned Wayne Bergeron. We're lucky enough to be here in Denver have Greg Gisbert, who I've known since I was in 9th grade. So he's certainly one of those people that have strived to play the entire instrument, whether it's the high notes or the low notes, soft, loud, beautiful. You mentioned musicality, you know. There's another great trumpet player in New York City I played with a bit when I lived there, Tony Cadlick, who actually looks like he could be Greg Gisbert's brother.
Tony's the man, yeah.
Yeah, Tony's just plays every show that's been on Broadway, and another just a guru of trumpet. Wynton Marsalis is the same. All the guys in his band, you know, Marcus Printup, they're all aware of trying to bring the tradition and respect to the instrument while also carving out their own voice, right? That's a challenge.
Yeah, and I think tradition, that's where we need to start and maintain the music. That's what's important about it. And like, yeah, you get a brand new chart nobody's ever seen before put in front of you. Sure, interpret it the way that you feel like it should be interpreted. But when you're playing bassy, and you got to play bassy, you got to have the vibrato, you got to have fast falls and things like that. And that goes for everybody. But the tradition is the most important part, in keeping, not for the necessarily the sake of keeping it alive, which is important, but paying tribute to the music that we've come to love so dearly, and the players who did it, and our favorite players. And it's like, all I want to do is sound like Snooky.
Brought his name up a bit. Snooky Young, one of the titans kind of a trumpet world, right? And when did you start listening to him?
Knowingly listening to him, I was in college. I didn't really have anybody pushing me to listen when I was in high school. I just kind of liked it, and I stumbled across a few things, but I really wasn't into any of this until I got to North Texas.
Wow.
And started checking out stuff, and I didn't listen to Maynard in high school. I knew who he was kind of, and I did know about some of his songs, but I wasn't actively listening to anything like that. And so it all kind of happened when I got to college. And I,
everything happens when it should.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. But it definitely pushed me to listen more. Everybody else was listening. I felt like everybody had a head start. And I remember just going, we could check out CDs from the library, and I went every day. I just started checking out big band records and Count Basie, and, things with Conrad Gazzo on it, and Al Persino, and, all these, the hangs that we were having with these people at North Texas, who had been there, and, oh, you don't know this record? Like, oh man, you got to get on this.
Yeah.
And then I was listening all the time when I first started, all the time.
You know what's crazy is the older I get, and by the way, your birthday last year, we were sipping Stranahan's bourbon.
Yeah.
At the Stranahan's distillery here in Denver, Colorado.
That was great.
So it's crazy. A whole year's passed. The older I get, I just realize how much music musicians listen to throughout their lives, because something will come on. I just heard a Barry Manilow tune the other day, song that's based on the Chopin chord progression. Could It Be Magic? Yes.
Oh,
And when I hear that, I have these flashbacks of like, oh my God, I listened to Barry Manilow albums and Barbara Streisand and Neil Diamond and Captain and Tennille and Blood, Sweat and Tears and Three Dog Night, and all that has such an impact and starts to shape your musicality, what you're saying. And it's really about being able to play in the style of what a certain genre of music entails. So you're saying you're writing this blog. What are a few things that you're suggesting to people that want to learn more about playing in the style of lead trumpet playing?
Yeah, so one thing I will say is I did call the blog In the Style Of.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call it. So that's funny that you say that and then bring up the blog.
Everything's related, man.
Yeah, man, yeah. But my first entry is about high notes and musicality. I won't
Isn't
go.
that an oxymoron?
Yeah. We'll have to find out when it's posted.
So you're saying this is a brand new project, brand new blog on your website, jakeboldman.com?
Yes. I want it to be a broad spectrum as far as audience. I want to be able to help younger players be like, this is kind of where you need to start. And so I'm going to have posts about equipment, mouthpieces, and not even pertaining specifically to lead with the equipment.
Just trumpet.
Just trumpet, but with an emphasis on if you want to play lead, here's a good place to start. Just your beginner's guide to listening. So these albums, Count Basie, Kenton, Bill Holman, Terry Gibbs. So like talking about Snooki, so listing records that he's on, going through like Thad Jones and the Tonight Show with Doc, all of his Basie stuff. And even though I think he was playing third trumpet with John Clayton and Jeff Hamilton, their band, Bijan Watson's plays lead with them, but I think Snooki was playing third for the time that he was with the group. And so like including those, like reading a baseball card almost. And
Nice.
It's like Snooki is like master of the plunger mute, was like one of the fathers of first trumpet.
This is really exciting. This is good timing for this too, that you're putting this blog together. So any musicians and educators out there, please spread the word, jakeboldman.com, because this is another outlet, a very cool internet accessible educational tool if people aren't, going to be able to be back in school. And play-alongs are a really great thing too. Just the Bob Mincer Big Band play-along app, and that has Wayne Bergeron on it, by the way. And and Peter Erskine, the great drummer. And you can mute the different tracks and play along with it. There's so many neat resources out there these days. It doesn't mean if you can't be in school band that you should just stop playing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's really important.
Okay, this is really great information. I want to step over into our real experience segment of the show where, Jake, you've been posting a few things on Facebook, and it's like really impressive stuff with your physical workouts. You've kind of made this shift over the last 2 years, and tell us all about that.
Yeah, so it's mostly been running here lately, but it all started with I was doing dog sitting when I was in Denver. And there was this one dog that I was with for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And so I'm staying at these people's house, but their dog is I forget what the name. Oh, it was a German pointer. Anyways, these are really high energy dogs. They're like hunting dogs. And so they were like, it's really important that you get out and take Bodhi for a walk twice a day. And there happened to not be like drapes on the window in the room that I was staying in. And so the sun would rise at like, and it would wake me up by 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was greeted every morning by Bodie, like sitting at the end of the bed, like peering over, like, can we go on a walk yet?
That's a good look for you.
So we started going on walks and getting up and getting out and doing my thing first thing in the day. I'd never really done that before.
Really?
And yeah, just getting up and immediately working out. I'm not a 7 a.m. person. And so the sun woke me up naturally. The dog got me out the door because I had to.
How is the dog looking at you again?
And so it all started with that. And so we would go on long walks twice a day, and then it was over. And I was like, well, I'm kind of enjoying this. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep getting up early like that, since I'm kind of on the schedule now, and doing a workout or something, going on a walk in the morning. And so it started with the walk, and then I had a gym membership, and so I started working with this app called Couch to 5K, and it's basically a 30-day program that you can, if you feel like you're not ready to go on past day 5, then you can just redo day 5 again until you're ready to go on. But it's like, it starts off with like you walk for 2 minutes and then run for 30 seconds and then walk for 2 minutes and run. So you're kind of building up strength as you go throughout this month-long process. And so I started doing that to the point where, and I remember thinking there was the first day that it was like, all right, you're going to run for 8 minutes. And then you're going to walk for 1.5 minutes, and then you're going to do another 8 minutes, and then you walk for 5 minutes. And I'm like, 8 minutes? Like, or run for 8 minutes? Yeah, exactly. I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And so I just kind of built strength through that. And then I did my first 5K last June. And it started at Romero's Canine Club up there. And so I did my 5K, and I ran faster than I had run a 5K before. And so I felt great about that. But I started working with a trainer remotely in Dallas. And so I was doing this like lifting program with some cardio on the road. And it's like, I was pretty good about it, but even that was still a little less consistent. It's like if you're going out a bunch during the week and city to city, sometimes it's like a bunch of fun to go out, and other times you're like, there's nothing to do here.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And then it was really, when I got back from quarantine, there is a running series called the Colorado Brewery Running Series. And they do monthly virtual, it's not a contest, it's more of just like an event. And you put in your miles, and I think now there's almost 900 people that participated last month. It might be more, I don't know. But so everybody gets together, and there are prizes for if you get to 25 miles, if you get to 50 miles, and if you get to 100 miles. And so I got home and was like, what am I going to do for the next, what I thought then was going to be 2 months? So I mapped it out and was like, okay, so if I do 3 miles a day for 30 days, that's 90 miles.
Hold on. We got to double check that map.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 90 miles.
And then I took and got to I set a goal for 120 miles, and I got just over that. I think it was like 120 point something.
That's
and
super cool.
Yeah, I never, looking back, it's like I never would have considered myself, number one, being capable of doing something like that, or considering myself a runner. And so that has been like a really eye-opening experience as to what you can accomplish if you take the time and you have discipline and set out small goals for yourself and build on those small goals, what you can get accomplished. And it's made me proud of myself. I know that if I put in the effort, I can do things that I normally wouldn't think that I would be able to do. And you hear that a lot, but it's really true.
But tell me, why then? There's not much going on. It is a little bit of a downer, especially for performing musicians.
Sure.
You can't go out and do your things. You practice at home. That's not quite the same. Why did you feel that you took the steps, literally, to make a proactive choice of action versus sit on the couch, eat more pizzas, drink more beer, and do nothing and actually gain 20 pounds instead of going out and running?
I think it was the competition aspect of it. The first one was the 100 miles was you get like $20 off in their store or whatever. And it's like, I remember getting to the end of it and it's like, I just ran 100 miles for a shirt.
Did it have a smiley face? Yeah, like on the
No.
Forrest Gump. Yeah.
But,
so isn't that funny? That's a great lesson, isn't it? It's kind of, even, you got to have a goal. You got to try. You got to do something fairly consistent.
Right.
But then like having this extra little prize, even if it's silly, give yourself some sort of incentive, and you can do some amazing things.
Yeah, I think that's, for me, it's the competition aspect of it. And it's led me to think of other ways to spend my time being active. And it's like, I would love to get into mountain biking. And the more, like, when I'm playing a sport or something, I'm trying 100 times harder than I would if I was just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And so now it's to the point with the running where it's like, it feels weird if I don't get out and do something active. And I'm not running all the time. Sometimes I go on long walks, it's not, I don't want people to think that I'm out there running every day of the week, 31 days in a row. But it's just that you kind of get into new things, and when you realize that you can do it and go out there and give it a go, like have hobbies that keep you active. And so that's what I've been trying to think of. And it's made me feel good. It's lifted my spirits. And I think that's why I've stuck with it.
Very inspiring information, man. Congrats.
Thanks.
And thanks for sharing it. This is exactly what Sonic Tonic Experience is about. And for the listeners out there, as you're talking, these are hitting core values within myself as well. And it's two books that have really made an impact on me in the last year are James Clear. It's called Atomic Habits. Doing something consistently, creating new habits, because that is your life. Whatever you're doing them as small habits. So instead of ordering pizza 4 days a week, cut it down to 3, then cut it down to 1. Get out and walk to the mailbox, walk around the block, jog for 100 yards, right? And just do it baby steps. So Atomic Habits is really worth your money. And also this other guy, Ben Hardy, and he just came out with a new book called Personality Isn't Permanent. And it's exactly this thing that you're talking about, Jake, of saying, I didn't think of myself as a runner. Well, when you're not running, you don't think of yourself as a runner. Yeah. When you run every other day, you start thinking, I'm the kind of person that runs every other day. So it's, if you're looking for some inspiration out there to change your life and just improve as a person, if you read those two books in conjunction, Atomic Habits, Personality Isn't Permanent, I guarantee you, your life will change. And
I'm writing that down. I'm not texting.
Yeah, look at Jake's doing it right now.
That's great.
It's super inspiring. I mean, did you know, Jake, that I ran a marathon when I was 11?
I did know that. And I've been thinking about that, because just how you I don't want to take away your story if this is
No?
what you're going to say either. Just how you built up to it, you and your dad.
Yeah, you just build up. You do the 5K, you know,
Yeah.
and it's about getting in those environments. That's your goal is to run a 5K. And if you can do it with someone, that helps also. So it was really neat. My dad's 30 years older than me, and we'd kind of do it together. And then my teacher in 5th grade, she ran the Denver Marathon, and I went and checked it out. We all hung out down there for the day, and I just thought, I'm coming back here next year and doing this. And we got on a 3-month real strict training program, got up to like 63 miles a week
Wow.
at the peak of it. Ran the longest run we did was 18 miles. And they figure you're in good enough condition, and the adrenaline and the atmosphere of the race will help you those past
Yeah,
those
that's what I've
next
heard.
8 miles.
It's
And
like don't do the whole thing until the day of.
yeah, like you got to have that push.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was 11, and my goal was 9-minute miles and try to beat 4 hours, and I got 3:56.
Awesome.
And I was just like, this is so cool. And it's not necessarily about being in shape and doing the race. It's kind of what it teaches you of what you said. It shows you can do pretty amazing things at any age if you just set your mind to it.
Yeah, the body is capable. It's the mind that holds you back.
It really is. And what's so ironic is I never ran another marathon again. And then I started having problems with my knees. I grew real fast. I'm 6'6". So I'm really tall, and that 8th, 9th grade years, really kind of my knees got Osgood slaughter and, you know, a lot of different stuff. So I kind of had to back off. But one thing I'll say is, man, this stuff carries over into other areas of your life. I remember seeing Greg Gisbert on the Jerry Lewis telethon with the McDonald's Jazz Band and thought, this is a national thing, you kind of an all-star thing you audition for. I saw him playing, and I'm like, I'm doing that. When I'm a senior in high school, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And I made sure and got the audition materials, made a great tape, sent it in, and part of it's luck, you know, but sure enough, I got the letter in the mail. You're in the McDonald's All-American Marching Band, and then it was the jazz band. And I'm like, I believe that part of that training of the marathon years before had something to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not specific to one thing. Hard work is hard work.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that. You kind of, you know, put it out there for yourself. It's like, I want to do that. I want that. And that's how I felt about playing in the 1 o'clock. Even I remember getting to school and I thought I was going to have this stellar audition, and I made lead in the 9 o'clock, which as a freshman is still a good thing, you know, but I was in the 9th band, the last band. And I was like, oh God, maybe I need to like reevaluate. And I remember seeing the 1 o'clock perform for the first time and was just like, I want that. I want to do that. That looks like so much fun. It sounds awesome.
Yes.
And yeah, so I think putting that out there to yourself
is important. And actually a big part of Ben Hardy's book and his blog about journaling. He's huge on journaling. And I just did it this morning, where that's where you put it out there. You're writing it down. Yeah. Thinking something is important, but doing something is more important. And actually writing it physically on paper and saying, I want this to happen for my life. This is a goal. I'm going to finish. I'm going to sign up for this 5K. I'm going to train 4 days a week for it, and start making these small changes, you know. And hopefully, this is inspiring, Jake, because you're like a perfect representative of what kind of guests I'm looking for Sonic Tonic Experience. It's somebody who's passionate about stuff, but we all have doubts. We all have fears, and it's about just taking that one step past it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of what's driving my work ethic right now. Is I'm in a bit of a transitional phase, and it's like, I have a certain set of skills, but there's always things to be improved upon, and there's always things to work on and new things to get into. And ideally, I would want to be back in Denver. but I don't know where this next 6 months is going to lead me. You were supposed to go back out on the road, you know. And do you plan on that, or do you make a move and start doing something else because you nothing? They can say everything that they want, but we don't really know. They're booking
Yeah.
the gigs and doing the stuff. But yeah, and so it's just kind of this uncertainty, and it's like, all right, well, let's get to work, start working on stuff. And the reason for the blog and the brand and the website update and all the stuff.
Yeah, I think the thing that a lot of musicians have been talking and really feeling, I mean, and it's beyond musicians too, but is going, wow, I wasn't seeing this coming. All of our gigs just gone. I mean, what a bizarre
Just like
summer,
that.
because we're all in Colorado. We're all driving up the mountain once a week to go play a wedding up in Vail and Beaver Creek and Aspen and Telluride and all this stuff. It's always a lot of cool travel, and you play all this cool stuff with fun people. All that's been gone, nothing.
Yeah.
So you can make two choices, though. You didn't choose this, but you can choose how you react to it.
Sure.
So then you go, well, I'm still alive, I'm still healthy, and I have people around me that support me, and I have this talent, right?
Yeah.
So do something else with it. It's like forcing your head to look another direction and go, well, maybe you can apply your talents in music and maybe deeper down these characteristics and your values in your person, and do something that could have never happened because if it wouldn't have been for this COVID, you know?
Yeah. And as terrible of a thing as it is, like, I think there's some good that's come out of it personally. And yeah, kind of getting into these new streams, of, I don't know, your interests, or it's like I've thought about doing things outside of music. Like, what do I like? It's like I like being in a brewery. Like, what if I was to work at that or do something with that for a little bit or part-time, or just because I enjoy it,
And you
and
can bring these same characteristics and passions to another field. And isn't that cool? That's also you're putting a nice bow on this show of like the Sonic Tonic. It's like music and beverage. It's all kind of a medicinal substance for well-being, making you feel better. And isn't that cool that you could take some of this, all this detail-oriented, this discipline thought as a lead trumpet player, and go be a brewmaster somewhere, and you might make one of the world's best and most popular beers, and you would have never planned on doing that unless life sort of led you down that path.
right.
Yeah. Well, man, this is super interesting conversation, man. We could just keep going, and we have
Right.
when we were together here in Colorado.
Yeah.
Lots of great gems of wisdom here. Everybody, please, if you can spare a few dollars, please go ahead and push it to the links you see on the screen, and we'll get it to Jake, and hopefully he can pay a few bills from this and from the lack of gigs through this whole COVID experience. And but we wish you the best of luck to keep things going, stay healthy, and keep playing music. This is a real pleasure to learn from you and get to hang out a little bit here for this show.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been too long, and it gets me excited, like talking about all this stuff. It's like, I'm gonna go like get to work now. I want to do this. I got this idea. This has been super fun.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Miss it.
Yeah,
Miss
I'm
it.
so psyched this worked out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and finish out the show here with featuring Jake on a DKO ElektroHornz remix that I did of my song Not Far From Here. So we recorded this in January when he was in Denver playing the Margarita show a bit, and I said, man, let's record. So it was Jake, my sister Dawn. It's really incredible what you can do with great players, a great song, and Ableton Live. And so I hope you guys enjoy this. This is the great lead trumpet playing of Jake Boldman on Not Far From Here, the ElektroHornz remix. See you next week.
I want you to linger around. I need no one else